Alright, like always, let's begin with Digi-Egg cards. I'm playing 4 copies of the BT13 Doraemon just because when we attack with anything with 4 more sources, we get to draw a card, which is going to be our main draw engine of the deck. And now let's talk about rookies, starting with the all-new Doraemon from BT20. I'm running 4 copies because this is your main searcher of the deck, helping you grab anything that is X antibody, as well as a Tamer or option card that has Chronicle trait. Of course, you want to prioritize playing this guy as much as possible in the early stages, and with its inherited effect, giving you extra 2000 DP during your opponent's turn. As for its partner, I'm also running 4 copies of the all-new Ouryuken. This is essentially helping you to Digivolve up into your stack with reduction cost of 1, as long as you go into a Ginryomon or anything with Chronicle trait. And that is exactly why this is the main rookie you want to Digivolve in the back, so then once you get to your next turn, you can easily climb up as you go. And since this new Ouryuken is both red and black now, you also get extra DP buff, but during your own turn with 2000 DP. One of the nice things that I really like about these new rookies is that aside from just Digivolving on top of an X antibody Digi-Egg for 0 cost, as long as it's black, you can also choose to pay 1 memory, which is really good first turn play just to choke your opponent at 1. And then to round off for the rookies, I'm running 2 copies of the BT8 Ouryuken, which is our secondary searcher of the deck, grabbing anything that's X antibody. Aside from our deck pretty much fully Chronicle trait, everything else in the archetype is still X antibody after all. And aside from that, it also helps you grab a Yuji, which I am actually running the good old BT8 one as well alongside in this build. And with its inherited effect, it gives you decoy black as long as whatever is in the stack on the top is a X antibody trait. It's always important to consider Digivolving on top of this guy just so you can gain that extra benefit for extra protection. That's it for level 3s. Now let's talk about level 4s. First, got 4 copies of the Raptordramon, being able to Digivolve for 2 on top of a Doraemon or on top of any Chronicle trait. When you Digivolve into it, it lets you play a Coda Tamer, more specifically the Dual Tamer being part of the Chronicle trait that you really want to see. And just like Doraemon, with his inherited effect, you gain extra 2000 DP during your opponent's turn. And then as we move on to its partner, of course, there's the Ginryomon, which I'm also running 4 copies of, being able to Digivolve for 2 on top of Ouryuken specifically, or Chronicle trait. This one gives you the ability to Digivolve as you're attacking, which is a very common theme across this entire deck because you always want to be able to Digivolve while you're doing that, so then you can gain your maximum amount of benefits as you climb up with your 5 and your 6s. And then just like Ouryuken, extra 2000 DP during your own turn is the DP buffs that you need to ensure that you swing over your opponent's security or even their opponent's Digimon. But that's it for level 4s. Now let's talk about level 5s. 4 copies of the all-new Greatmon. Mainly, you want to Digivolve for 3 costs on top of a Raptordramon or a Chronicle trait that's a level 4. And when you Digivolve or play out this guy, it actually gives you a pretty interesting effect because it lets you play out a Doraemon or Ouryuken from your hand in the breeding area that is empty. And the secondary part of this effect is when you Digivolve into this guy while attacking, you also gain extra 5000 DP and immunity against your opponent's Digimon effects that last until the end of opponent's turn. The fact that this card can go up to 12k DP all by itself pretty much almost means it's a level 6. And with its inherited effect, you get to redirect and attack once during the opponent's turn. And then with its partner, Hisariumon, which pretty much does exactly the same thing, but instead of gaining the Digimon effect immunity, as long as you're attacking while Digivolving into this card, you gain security +1 until the end of opponent's turn. And with its inherited effect, you get to negate all your opponent's option cards in the security, and therefore I'm running 4 copies of this as well. But that's it for level 5s. Now let's talk about level 6s, and starting off with the leader of the Royal Knights. Of course, there's the all-new BT20 Alphamon, which I'm running 4 copies of. Being able to Digivolve for 3 on top of a yellow or black itself has barrier, and when you Digivolve into it, you get to recover 1. If you Digivolve into it while attacking, you actually get to Digivolve the level 3 that you set up in your breeding area into a level 4. Otherwise, if you had a level 4 or 5 to begin with, you can Digivolve into anything that's as long as level 6 or lower, which is why it's really important that you want to synergize your attacks as you climb up over and over so you can use those effects all in one go, and once you have that second stack ready, it really helps you keep up with the momentum in the game. Its secondary effect is all turns once per turn. Whenever your opponent's or your own security stack is removed, you get to minus 8000 DP to one of your opponent's Digimon, which is really good synergy with its barrier that it initially has. And it also has the inherited effect, which mainly provides your Alphamon Ouryuken protection by trashing your own security, which also has a lot of synergy as we talk about later on. We can see that the Alphamon provides a lot of utility and control for the deck, but there's even more control elements and offensive side of things when it comes to Ouryuken with its partner, which you're also going to be wanting to run 4 copies of. First of all, it has piercing. When you play or Digivolve it, you get to de-Digivolve 2 on one of your opponent's Digimon. Just like Alphamon and all the other stuff as you're attacking, when you Digivolve into this guy, you get to also Digivolve into a level 6 or lower in your breeding. And then with its secondary effect is that all turns once per turn, when the security stack is removed, whether yours or your opponent's, you get to delete your opponent's Digimon with the lowest DP, effectively removing almost their big stack on the board when you synergize with the D-Digivolving effect when you get into it. And then with its inherit effect, just to benefit your Alphamon Ouryuken, you get the power to trash your opponent's security whenever you attack with it too. That's it for level 6s. Now let's talk about level 7s with the all-new Alphamon Ouryuken Ace, and I'm running 3 copies of it. Normally, you're gonna have to pay 6 memory to Digivolve into this guy, but ideally you want to DNA Digivolve with your Alphamon and Ouryumon on the board to gain the maximum amount of benefits. Otherwise, it provides you the hand counter blast DNA against your opponents, which is why it's always really important that you want to establish a level 6 either the Alphamon or Ouryumon on the board, because you immediately pressure into this guy as long as you have the other piece in your hand to fulfill that blast DNA requirement. When you play or Digivolve into this guy, you get to DP reduce one of your opponent's Digimon by 15k that lasts until the end of the opponent's turn. Talk about an even more powerful version of Wyvern's Breath. And then if you DNA Digivolve, you get to trash your opponent's top card security and recover 1. But that's not all. It has a final effect where all turns once per turn, when a security stack is removed, you get to gain 3 memory, meaning you can potentially steal the opponent's turn if you blast Digivolve into it, or you guys can see where the synergy really comes in with the Alphamon. If you protect with the inheritable effect by trashing your own security to keep your Ouryuken on the board, you gain 3 memory. Or whenever you attack offensively with it, you trash your opponent's security with the Ouryumon inherited effect, you still gain that 3 memory as well. And that is just absolutely crazy. And don't forget, this card has only a 9 play cost, where there are some specific situations when you really need to hard play it to get out of a pinch or a sticky situation. But of course, all that benefits come with a drawback because it has Ace Overflow -5. I also want to let you know that the Chronicle trait build isn't the only way that you can capitalize and play Alphamon Ouryuken Ace. And that is because I personally still prefer the stack building version, and I've been experimenting and cooking up something different with that as well. So you guys prefer the traditional Alphamon build that utilizes some of these new cards, definitely stay tuned as I might cover it on the channel. But if you're a AVAULT Club member, you can actually see my deck list of that particular version already. So make sure to join, and I really appreciate the support. Also, if you want to see Alphamon in action in the Royal Knights deck, make sure to watch the latest Battle Vault episode as you get to see it face against the 7th grade Demon Lords deck. And there's going to be special discount codes for the AVAULT store too. And that's it for all of our Digimon. Let's go ahead and talk about our Tamers, starting with the brand new Koda and Yuji from BT20. This is the one that you definitely want to play a 4 of. It is 5 cost, which is pretty hefty to pay, which is why you always want to try to play it for free off of Raptordramon, if not have it hit in security. Aside from that, this is a vital tamer to help you bridge your when Digivolving effects as you attack, because when you attack with a Chronicle trait, you can Digivolve into another Chronicle trait, reducing the cost by 1. And that's exactly how you want to get your most benefited effects when it comes to your Grademon, Hisariumon, Alphamon, and Ouryumon alone. And one fun fact, you don't necessarily have to Digivolve the attacking Digimon. You also get to Digivolve any other Digimon that you have on the board instead as well. And as an extra tip, you can even Digivolve the Digimon in your breeding area with this effect too. And that's exactly why it's not bad at all to establish multiple copies of these guys on the board, because it just helps you ramp up all your stacks even faster. As for the second retainment, which I talked about earlier, I'm playing 2 copies of the BT8 Yuji. The fact that we're just constantly being able to play our rookies in the bag means that we can always push out turn after turn. And with that, we're able to gain a memory and draw a card to cycle very quickly to find everything that we need. Aside from that, being able to tuck in additional sources while we attack is always fantastic to rack up other inheritables that we need in specific situations. And that's it for all of our Tamers. Let's talk about options, where I'm running 4 copies of the Fellowship of Hope's Keepers. This is your main other searcher of the deck that you want to establish in the early stages to help you grab anything that's Chronicle trait. You also get to put the rest of the pieces back to the top or bottom so you can plan depending on what you want to see ahead and later on too. This delay effect is that whenever your Chronicle trait Digimon is deleted, you get to use this delay to push out something that's level 3 or higher that is also Chronicle trait into the battle area. Afterwards, you can also then Digivolve into whatever level that Nyx needs to get into for free. As a matter of fact, the Digimon you're going to Digivolve into can be either from your hand or trash as well. And then with a security effect, it lets you play anything that's Chronicle trait as long as its play costs 5 or less, meaning you can go ahead and play the Tamers, you can play the level 3s, or even your level 4s. Afterwards, you place it in your battle area so you can utilize the delay effect the turn after. Now, you may have noticed that this Chronicle trait archetype has a lot of similarities to how X-Antibody used to run. You want to Digivolve as you're attacking, and that's exactly the reason why I'm still running 2 copies of the OG option card. Aside from the Ginrymon and your Tamers, when you don't see them, this is still a very good card to give you an extra opportunity to Digivolve while you're attacking so they can get you maximum benefits out of your level 5s and your 6s. To round up for all the options, and since this is a black-based deck after all, I decided to tack in 1 copy of Laplace's Demon. And that is just to taunt the opponent's Digimon to attack into us so that we can go into a blast DNA for free easily so that opponents can't play around it. Tech choices and other cards that I've also considered when I was configuring this build. First off, with another Digi-Egg card, which we have the traditional BT7 Doremon, which lets you draw additional cards as you tuck sources underneath. This synergizes well whenever you choose to use your UG or the X antibody option card, just so you can draw a card immediately off of it. But you only really get the most value if you ever run this build with Protoform, which is always a fantastic card for any X antibody trait to help you reduce your Digivolution cost as you climb up. It gives you the recursion of pieces that you might need. And then that's also exactly the same reason why you can consider adding the BT7 Doremon to help you search for your pieces. And the only reason why I don't run that is because I have the 2 copies of UG, which is not going to be searchable off of that effect. And it can only grab you the Coda UG, which is the new Tamer. But being able to gain memory when you tuck sources underneath it is also nice to give you a lot more flexible plays during your own turn. Another Tamer that is outside of the archetype you guys can also include is actually the Louis, which is restricted down to 1. But it works very well since your level 5s play your level 3s in the back, and if you ever Digivolve and if you're constantly pushing up, you can actually gain that additional memory, pretty much similar to the reason why I'm running more copies of the UG. But keep in mind, there is a stipulation. Just because you played a Doremon or Ryudomon that turn in the breeding area, even if you use Louis and push it out, you're not going to be able to attack because specifically that Digimon was played that turn and it wasn't having an egg underneath it. But on the best side of things, if that Digimon was played in the breeding area the turn before, or if you ever had an egg underneath it to begin with, as you push out, you can immediately make a sneak attack that your opponents don't see coming, and possibly at times it can win you the game. If you want more searching and more consistency, Black Memory Boost is always great, helping you dig deep and also grabbing the pieces that you need, and then with its delay effect to gain extra memory. And speaking of gaining memory, I've also considered running Blinding Ray, because now with this whole archetype of Alphamon Ouryuken and Alphamon itself being yellow, you can use this option card to trash your own security to gain memory, but also gain the secondary effects of Alphamon to DP reduce or Ouryuken to gain additional 3 memory, which is absolutely crazy. Alright, combos and how to play the Alphamon Chronicle trait deck. Starting with your hand, you want to see your rookies as much as possible. Ideally, it's going to be your Doremon, Ryudomon to help you search and find pieces. If not, Fellowship of Hope Keepers does the same thing. You want to then find your Tamer eventually, which is going to be really important to help you establish so they can go ahead with your combos. One of the other things you want to make sure is that you also have an additional stack that you can build up continuously to utilize, which you want to see additional level 3s and additional level 4s and so on, so that you can easily play them and build another stack in the back. Part of the game plan, because you can always DNA into yourself with 2 level 6s eventually, and I'll show you guys how. Starting with combo number 1, 1 memory and a Ryudomon in raising is all you need to climb all the way to a level 6, which is absolutely crazy. So you want to go ahead and push out. Ryudomon lets you reduce the Digivolution cost as you go into the Chronicle trait by 1. So you're going to Digivolve into Raptordramon. You're going to use this alternative Digivolution requirement for 2, but thanks to Ryudomon, it'll make it 1 instead. Once you get into Raptordramon, use this when Digivolving effect to play your Coda and your UG. This is one of the basic combos I still really like because it really lets you utilize the old X antibody to become part of it to help you achieve what you need. So of course, use it and tuck it underneath for 0. Now we're going to go ahead and attack with Raptordramon. We're going to use the Coda and UG. By suspending, because it's a Chronicle trait, we get to Digivolve into Grademon for 2 cost. Grademon effect is now going to kick in on play, or when Digivolving, we get the extra 5k, Digimon effect immunity, but since we're attacking as well at the same time, we get to play a Doremon into our breeding for free. Now we're going to use Doremon to draw a card because we have 4 more sources at this moment. And then finally, we're going to use X antibody to let us Digivolve into Alphamon for the 3 cost. Alphamon's when Digivolving effect is going to let us recover a security. And because it was attacking just like Grademon, we get to Digivolve into level 6 or lower in our raising. Keep in mind it has to go up to like the proper levels, meaning we can then Digivolve into Ginryomon for free, whether from our hand or trash. And that's how we cycle and draw cards, and that's how we want to be playing this deck as we continue to establish 2 stacks eventually, because next turn we can push out and repeat the similar combos again. Alphamon is then going to go into your opponent's security for 18k DP thanks to the 5k buff from Grademon and the extra 2k from the Ryudomon. If Alphamon will ever be deleted via battle, this is where we get to use Barrier to trash our top security to prevent that from happening, and then we get to use his last effect to minus something by 8k DP as well. Although this passes 5 memory to the opponent's side, but you have an 18k redirect Digimon on the board, which is also unaffected by your opponent's Digimon effects. If they ever try to attack into you, this is where you can potentially threaten a Blast DNA Digivolve as long as you have Ouryumon in your hand as well to get into it and counter them. That is the amount of pressure that this stack is going to put against your opponents in the early stages of the game. For combo number 2, I want to show you guys how the Ouryuken stack is kind of like. This time, it's very similar to like a follow-up of the previous combo. Once you establish the Coda, Yuji, and then you have the Ginryu ready in the back. And let's just say your Alphamon got deleted or removed entirely and you lost it. But now we're going to go up, starting at 3 memory. Ginryumon, we're going to attack with it. We're going to use its when attacking effect to then Digivolve into a Hisaryumon for 3 costs. Hisaryumon is going to Digivolve and use its effect so that we can play out a Dorumon or a Ryudamon in our breeding. We're going to go ahead and play out this Ryudamon in the back. And because we're attacking, we're going to gain security attack +1 and extra 5000 DP until the end of opponent's turn. Now we're going to suspend Coda and Yuji because we're still attacking in that sequence where we're allowed to Digivolve into the Ouryuken for 2 costs instead, because it will cost 3 normally, but thanks to the Tamers, it reduces it by 1. Now Ouryumen's going to Digivolve 2 on one of the opponent's Digimon. And just like Alphamon from before, we can Digivolve in our breeding area, whether from our hand or trash. Of course, going to go with a Ginryumon just because we can always utilize this when attacking effect as well. What I really like to do with this Ouryuken combo is attack into one of opponent's suspended Digimon, Digivolve it by 2. Afterwards, we get to Pierce for 2 checks with at least 18k DP, thanks to the Hisario DP buff and the Ginryumon buff in the stack. But that's not all. Thanks to Hisaryumon, we also negate all the opponent's security option effects too. You guys can see why it is really important to establish the Coda and Yuji on the board, because with this amount of play, you also climb into a level 6, but instead of passing your opponent to 5 memory like combo number 1, this time you only leave them at 2 instead. For combo number 3, I want to show you guys what this deck is even capable of doing in terms of aggressive and damage to close out games. And the thing is, with the setup, even having multiple Kodas and Yujis is not that bad because they can stack with their effects to give you your cost reductions. And I want to also show you guys with the older Yuji, which I really like. Because you play a lot of stuff in the breeding area, that means you're constantly pushing out turn after turn. And by pushing anything that's X antibody, you get to gain 1 and draw 1, which is great value when you have that on the board. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to gain 1 and draw 1 off of it. Now we're going to go ahead and attack with Raptordramon. We're going to first use the first Coda and Yuji to suspend to Digivolve into Grademon for 2 costs, reducing it by 1. Grademon is going to let us play a Dorumon in the reading area for free. Now we get to resolve the second one to suspend the other Coda Yuji to Digivolve into Alphamon for also 2 costs. We get to recover a security off its effect, and because while we're attacking, we gain all the other bonuses effects as well, so that we can also Digivolve into a Ginryumon in the back here. Similar to combo number 1, now we get to draw a card off the Dorumon since we have 4 more sources, and we get to check in for 1 security against the opponent since we have a lot of massive DP with Alphamon being at least 18k. Next, I'm going to attack with Ouryuken into the opponent's security just for 1 check. I'm going to suspend Yuji to tuck another Ouryuken underneath, which we don't get to use just yet, but we will very soon, and then finish off 1 check. The opponent should be at 3 security at this point, and this is where we can actually just finish them off if they have nothing to answer us. Since the opponent tries to play around our aces, we're going to go ahead and DNA into our very own Alphamon Ouryuken ourselves instead. Since this deck is really good at building 2 stacks very quickly, we always have that opportunity. By Digivolving into Alphamon Ouryuken, we get to minus 15k DP to one of the opponent's Digimon that lasts until the end of the opponent's turn. And because we DNA Digivolve, we get to recover 1 and trash one of the opponent's security. And because with its last effect, the opponent lost a security, Alphamon Ouryuken Ace is going to gain us another 3 memory. Keep in mind, since we DNA Digivolve, all the inheritables in the stack get to reset as well, so we get to use them all over again. And this is exactly where we're going to finish it off, because the opponent would have 2 security left after being trashed with Ouryuken Ace. We're going to attack, and then both Ouryumons are going to trigger when attacking. If this Digimon is Alphamon Ouryuken, we get to trash the opponent's security by trashing the 2, and this will finish off and swing for game. Make sure to get your very own Initialize Spar collection on the AVAULT store right now, and definitely watch the latest Battle Vault episode to get exclusive discount codes for this latest drop. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.